Good afternoon. Today's date is 11/13/22, and we're very fortunate to have two young people here with us today. And to the left of them are four champagne bottles. They found in their dad's case recently, and he worked as a carpenter at the LST factory in Evansville from 1942 to 1945. Can you say your name?
My name is Sara Catherine Cares Becker. Maiden name is Cares. My mother's name is Anna Genevieve Umfried. My dad's name is Henry Peter Cares Jr.
Okay. And sir?
I'm Danny Cares.
Okay. And Danny, why don't you tell us first, when was Dad born and when did he die?
He was born in 1911 and he died in 1983.
And before we went to war, was he a carpenter before we went to war, or did he get that occupation later?
His dad was a carpenter, and then he became a carpenter. He was in the service, but he was in between the two world wars.
Yeah.
And when he got back out of the service, he went back to being a carpenter.
So, because he was born in 1911, he was a little bit old for World War II and too young for World War I. So
Yes.
some men they landed in that area. So scaffolding was pretty important for making the LST. If you look at some old pictures, lots of scaffolding, lots of molds are made, and he probably did a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he did there. I just knew that he worked there.
Did you ever see your dad, did you ever hear your dad talk about anything, ma'am?
Just that he found some of these things and they happened to come home with him.
Oh, good. And give me your first name again.
Sarah.
Okay, Sarah. And did he live in Evansville and your mom live in Evansville all their life?
Yes.
They born and raised here?
Mom was raised in Enfield, Illinois, and when they married, they were in Evansville.
How did she get over here? She come for work, or how'd they meet?
Oh dear. They met at a church social.
Uh-huh.
Somebody said, "Hey Genevieve, there's your cousin." Well, it wasn't her husband, it was her future husband.
Uh-huh.
And she worked at Betty Maid Dress Factory after she got out of high school and college in Henderson making dresses.
Uh-huh. And after she had her baby, she didn't work anymore, or did she continue to work?
She worked with us kids.
A
woman's work is never done, you know that.
How many kids in your family?
There are four of us.
Four of you. Two
And we are the only two.
left. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then Danny, can you tell us a little about your dad's carpentry expertise and where he worked after the war? Did he work other places?
He worked as a carpenter until he retired.
Uh-huh.
Really, his knowledge of carpentry was tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
He always felt like he was inadequate. He had to quit school from 6th grade because he had to go to work and help support the family.
Yeah.
But his knowledge of carpentry, he could walk in a room and look around and tell you what they did wrong when they built it.
Well, he grew from experience. A lot of people do that, and that's very good. Now, why don't I want you to stand up, and then, Sarah, and pull your chair out a little bit. Okay, a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. Okay, now, you just sit there and face this. That's it. Now face me. That's right. Just like that. That's perfect. Okay, now, you stay in the picture there. Now, what we want to talk about here is there's an LST, a model of an LST right behind Danny here, and that's we made 167 LSTs here in Evansville. There's one left functioning in the world. It's in Evansville, Indiana. 1,100 were made or so. There were 7,000 of those ships in D-Day World War II. There's only one ship left in the world that was at D-Day, and that's our ship in Evansville, Indiana. So it's very important. In our case there, you see a box there. That box, in front of the box is a champagne bottle wrapped in, looks like a silk wrap. Whenever they would christen, and we had 167 christenings in Evansville, Indiana, and they would break one of those champagne bottles that you see there, and they didn't want the glass getting everywhere, so when they christened the ship, it would be caught by that little bag. So these 4 bottles, to your right, to your left, survived, and one of them still has the label on it, but those are the champagne bottles that would have been used for the LST during World War II, the christening. So we were probably planning on making some more ships, and we ended up not making at least 4 more ships because they dropped the bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, to the left of that box, you see a silver bowl there, right next to Danny's arm. That's a silver bowl. And out of those 167 people, that was given to Mrs. Robinson. And you see a picture of Mrs. Robinson there. Mr. Robinson was right there. I'm zooming in on Mrs. Robinson christening that ship there. He was the chief engineer for the lighting at the LST plant. And this is a picture of both him and her with the roses. And anybody that would get was at a christening ceremony, and he was able to christen. Only the big wigs got to christen unless they did something significant. So Mr. Robinson there was Mrs. Robinson able to christen, and they got that silver bowl. They got the box that held the silver bowl, and they got that wrapping that went around the champagne bottle. And there you see a ship on the ways over there. We had 4 ways in Evansville, Indiana, and 4 ways to before it was christened, they would push it into the river. So Evansville was a factory of 19,000 in Evansville. Move your seat back over. 19,000 employees at our LST factory, and your father worked there. Our biggest factory in 2022 is about 5,000 people, so it was 24/7 there. And they started making ships as we have outlined on the board here. This is how you make it. You make it just like you would. You make it the same way you would make big container ships. You start in the center and then you build out. This is a picture right on the Omaha River. You see a big crane there. There's still one crane left down by the old Sigco building. And down here is those are the ways here. We had 4 ways here before they would build the ships. And this is a picture of the ships being built there with Wrights High School in the background. And then after they built them, assembled them, took close to 40 days to assemble at the end, and then another 10 days to outfit them. And on the river there, you see them tied up to caissons, and that's what they would do out there. Those are little other support ships there, and the front or the bow, actually the stern of one of the ships is right there. All these are made at this company here in Evansville, International Steel, and you see Bailey bridges there made also by International Steel. But your dad was a big part of our workforce here. We had 80,000 workers here. It was the biggest, or the most per capita in the world for the war effort, more than Germany, more than the United States. So your dad was one of the 19,000 there, one of the 80,000 here. A lot of demographics changed during World War II because people came from other cities to live. Mom had lived in Enfield and met Dad, but during World War II in the 1940s, in 41 to 42, there was an influx of 60,000 people here to work. So a lot of marriages happened, and a lot of people changed where they used to live to here because they got married or found good work and stayed around. So your dad ended up staying in Evansville. He was a native anyway. Mom was not a native, but he stayed all his life till 1982. We're grateful. What won World War II is our machines and our industrial infrastructure, and your dad was part of that. And his carpentry expertise, you said a lot about it there, Danny, and he was probably very good. He was probably a leader there because he had some experience of carpentry work, and carpentry was so important making the molds. These LSTs were made of steel, and they had to solder them together. And a lot of women got jobs. They got paid a lot more than they would as a waitress, and a lot of them were welders there. But to weld, they had to climb up the side of the ship sometimes, and they had to make molds for these ships. So your dad's job was very important. Do you have any comments to say what Dad would have said about World War II or about the LST? Did he ever talk about it at all to either one of you?
He didn't really talk about it. I know he had a lot of experiences, but I think it was similar to the veterans. The veterans did not talk about the war. Yeah. And we've got it a little more recently, the Vietnam veterans, they don't talk about the war.
Yeah, I found in a lot of interviews, men didn't talk about it till they're between 85 and 100. Then they'd start loosening up about talking about it. They just blocked it out, but he might have had some friends that were lost in war. There was a lot of PTSD about this war, and it wasn't the best. Wars are terrible things, and we don't want to have any more of them. But we thank you, the Cares family, and your daddy's first name and last?
Henry
Cares.
Henry Peter Cares
Henry
Jr.
Henry Peter Cares Jr. So his dad...
His dad was also a carpenter.
He was a carpenter, too. Was Dad in World War I or no? Grandpa?
No.
He was too old.
He was
too old. Yeah. Well, do you have any other things to say? And we're sure glad this Evansville War Museum, and you have donated these bottles to us, and they will be in this cabinet in a little while. And we'll get that little, we're just so fortunate to have that. We've never had a donation like this. Very unique, and we'll send you a letter. Our archivist is right here, Stephanie Pitchers, and she's going to send you a letter and tell you what she's given you, and then we'll keep it safe for a long period of time. We won't drink that champagne.
Rather you wouldn't.
And we won't break the bottle either, okay? One of them already, somebody got to, one of them's an empty bottle. Somebody had to get that champagne, yeah.
It's
Well,
our honor to be able to contribute this to the museum. It's
Your-
our honor.
Your dad and Mom be proud of you. Your dad and Mom, it's an honor for them and your dad to have done so much for our biggest factory in Evansville ever had in the past and probably ever will in the future. All right, thank you very much now.
Thank you. And